had different people in my ear at that time, I would not have made that decision.
Now you out here playing on single mothers.
We don't talk about what accountability is.
I found out that her lawyer asked her to do that interview.
First thing I said was that at the time of certain things, I you know, when I filed, I filed in the heat of a moment. I was very, very hurt. I was very, very angry. I never said I regretted my whole decision. What I did say was I regretted doing it in a moment where I was emotionally intoxicated. If I could take that back, I would. That doesn't mean I regretted the decision.
The truth about the matter is that if I had different people in my ear at that time, I would not have made that decision. No.
You now in the spirit of potentially even being able to rekindle a relationship, like rekindle that relationship, is your spirit in that place, or could it ever go back to that place?
It's loaded because of the fact that there's been so much that's happened, you know, like there's been so much that's occurred. Okay. He's my daughter's father. So I would say this. I would say that if we were both going to show up and we were both going to fight for it equally and sacrifice equally, like, you know, things that I needed and, you know, things that, you know, he needed. I wasn't perfect. Come on.
Yeah.
Your girl ain't perfect. So I would say that if we were both willing to fight and we were both willing to do certain things, then yes.
Okay, so let's just run this back. Okay, if you have not watched the original reaction that I did to that interview, I'm gonna make sure I link it at the end of the video so that you can see it. But you know, Tyrese Gibson's ex-wife has come to the forefront, and she did an interview about, you know, her separation, her divorce, you know, what led up to that situation. And, you know, she was standing on the point of, you know, her holding herself accountable, you know, her speaking, basically saying like she would have done things differently. You know, she wouldn't have sought out the counsel that she did at the time. If she spoke to other people, or if she had a different mindset at the time, that she would not have made the decision that she made. After that interview, Tyrese came online, okay, and he basically called it all out. He called her out. He called it out. He started, you know, giving us intricate details that we would not, you know, have known or been privy to if he did not let us in and tell us. And, you know, after that situation, she then had this live stream where she was expressing herself and explaining herself, I'm guessing, to her audience about, you know, her point of view, her holding herself accountable. Like, basically, it was like a part 2 of her point of view of the interview. Now, when I watched, you know, pieces of this live stream, as you guys can see, it made me rewind back to certain points of the interview that I saw. And I had to put them in here because you're saying at one point, you know, that you did not regret the decision that you made. You never said that you wanted him back. You never said, you know, that you wouldn't have done it at all. You know, you were just trying to hold yourself accountable. But then when we look at the conversation that you had in the interview, it's not about the point of you saying to the people that, you know, you were, you know, so emotional at the time, and maybe during that time you would have talked to other people and you wouldn't have done it in the moment. The whole regret comes in when you are talking in retrospect and you're saying, oh, well, you know, if things were different, if he was willing to, you know, meet my needs, me being in the place that I'm being, I would be open to reconciliation. If you are looking at a relationship and that the doors have closed, and you are now speaking in a sense of, okay, well, if this would have happened, and if he's willing, and if we're in this certain space, I would be willing to hit the Uno reverse. That is speaking in terms of regret. Like, man, I would have done things differently. And, you know, knowing what I know now, maybe I wouldn't have filed for divorce. And you know what? Being that is my child's father, it is a possibility that, you know, I would be willing to get back with him because I know the mistakes that I made before. And maybe where I thought the grass was greener, it really wasn't. So maybe I would get back with you. So what we're going to see is you know, Tyrese responded to her live stream again. So we're going to see all of that take place. But let's just continue with, you know, her live stream, and I'll keep adding my opinion throughout the video.
Took full accountability. I did not talk about anything with my particular, the in-depth part of my relationship, or, you know, what led me to the decision of divorce. I didn't talk about any of the specifics. I'm not going to. I've always said that is not something I will ever address out of respect to my child's father, because regardless, we have a child, and I never, ever, ever want to be anywhere where I'm bad-mouthing him. I just don't think that that's the way to do it. We've already gone through a lot, so it's not for me to bad-mouth him in any way, shape, or form, which is why that interview was all about me just looking back, and hopefully somebody can get, if they're on that situation and they're considering divorce, they're considering certain things. There are certain things that I want people to take from that, so that hopefully you can make a good decision, the best decision for your situation. Because again, not every marriage is meant to stay in. You know, I did not stay in. Our divorce is finalized. So there's a lot of things going out there, but our divorce is finalized. We are not, that's that. It is not final. It is finalized. So at the end of the day, you know, I can look back on it from a healing perspective and say, there are things I could have done better. And I wanted to own that. I took that opportunity to own that, and hopefully help somebody else in a very transparent way understand and weigh their decision and process it in a different way. My issue though, is that when I did that, and I did take accountability for my part, people decided to clip how they wanted to clip it and paint a picture. And honestly, y'all, if anybody decided, or any woman, any man, any woman wanted to go out on a platform and take accountability, the way that things played out for me, people would be like, that is exactly what the enemy wanted. The enemy wanted for that particular situation to be that all over the place, for people to not take accountability, for people to be afraid of taking accountability. Visceral, would you desire to unfinalize it? No. No. No.
You now in the spirit of potentially even being able to rekindle a relationship, rekindle that relationship, is your spirit in that place, or could it ever go back to that place?
If we were both willing to fight and we were both willing to do certain things, then yes.
Cackling when somebody in your audience asked you if you would ever want to unfinalize your divorce, if you would ever want to get back with your spouse, after you said on an interview that if he was willing, you would step up to the plate, and the answer would be yes, cackling at that question as if it's so comical because that relationship is so beneath you is baffling to me. Okay? It is baffling to me because, you know, there's some wordplay that's in here, right? Where she says, you know, people who have clipped up and made snippets of this. The clip that is going around is made from the channel that you did the interview on. Okay? From what I've seen, that clip comes from the original interview channel. It is not people who were gluing together statements and fragments of what you said. We hear the breaths, we hear the spaces, we hear the question being asked, we hear the full, long, drawn out answer. Like, this is not somebody who is copying and pasting and making it seem as though you said something. We're like literally sitting here and listening. Another thing that always, grinds my gears is when people start talking about, things that are going on and they start saying things like the enemy. Who is the enemy? Like, who's the enemy? I understand what she's trying to say or the message that she's trying to convey. But at the end of the day, this is based off of the conversation that you had. And this is based off of the things that you said. There is no, whatever enemy it is that you are trying to speak of, I feel like you're giving a lot of power to that entity. When in actuality, it's just the things that you said. Because you said something and it didn't go over maybe the way that you thought it would have gone over does not mean that there's any enemy to play. She made a point to say, and I don't want to touch on it too much because she ends up saying it again, but she made a point to say, this is the reason, if people saw me being accountable for my actions and how much backlash I got, it would make me not want to be accountable. That does not trump being accountable. Being accountable means I'm going to stand here in the paint, whether, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm going to own it. Whether people accept it, whether people don't accept it, whether people, appreciate it or don't appreciate it, I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. Sending the message that you will only be accountable or be responsible for your actions if it's going to go over well. To me, that is what a lot of women already do. If they know that it's going to be accepted, of course, they have no problem being accountable. But when they're, 100% back against the wall, you are wrong, that's when women are more prone to not being accountable for their actions because it doesn't feel good. I'm not getting the praise that I want. Emotionally, it's hurting my feelings because I'm being accountable for my actions and you're not accepting it. And so even though I wronged you, now my feelings are hurt. That's a very selfish way of thinking. Let's continue.
One thing about accountability, what I do want people to understand that is very important is that accountability is not me saying that the other person did anything right or wrong. It's not about the other person. It's not about the other person. Accountability is saying, I'm going to own me. I'm going to own my stuff. I'm going to take the time to own my stuff. And I'm not going to make it about anybody else's stuff.
When I made the decision, I was hysterically crying on the phone with my attorney. And I wasn't talking to someone that genuinely would be for marriage, or for reconciliation. And that's not no slight to my,
No, it's
the
attorney.
current friends.
It has nothing. There's no slight to that. Not the friends, but I was on the phone with my attorney.
Yeah.
So it was something that was being said to me that hurt me at that time. And that, so at that time when I was on the phone and I made that decision, I was livid. The truth about the matter is that if I had different people in my ear at that time, I would not have made that decision. No.
This is the point that I'm making. You see, you're talking about you are accountable for your actions. You're sending 10 toes down that you can't be responsible for nobody else. You can't paint the blame on somebody else. But it's not just about you and Tyrese. It's not just about you and your spouse in that moment. Because you're trying to be accountable for your actions and you don't want to point the blame on, your ex-husband in that moment because the whole conversation is about the two of you. Now the attorney catches a stray. Now the attorney catches a stray because if you were to point the blame at, well, it's because of what he did, then that would show your lack of accountability. So instead, the attorney catches a stray. Well, if they would have never told me these things, I would have never made that decision. Well, if they, who is not automatically, they're not for divorce, if I would have never been speaking to them, then I would have made different decisions. And it's accountability just at the base. It's not about pointing to anyone. I made the decision to do this. I acted out of impulse. No matter what anybody said or anybody else around me did or whatever, it was my decision. And I shouldn't have made that decision at the time. We shouldn't even know you was on the phone with your attorney. Because that's bringing other people or entities into the story when it should just be about you. Let's move on.
I'm going to own my stuff. I'm not going to sit here and blame shift and make it about other people. I'm only going to take accountability for me, because all I can do is take accountability for me. I can't take accountability for somebody else's actions. That's not real. Right? And so when we're talking about, oh, women don't take accountability, it's like, okay, well, if you're not creating the atmosphere for people to take accountability, they're not going to take accountability. That I was being as truthful without shaming another person as I could be. And that's what accountability is. But I do want to say that as a woman taking accountability in that particular instance, that would make me never want to do it again. All the hoopla would make me say, never mind. I'm never going to be that transparent. I'm never going to be that vulnerable. Bump that. Like, I'm just being honest, right? You have to be mindful that if we want a certain behavior from people, if we want a certain behavior from women, if women are the ones that we are complaining about that don't take accountability, which men and women don't take accountability, okay? And we gonna talk about what accountability is, because I think that we as a society don't have a clear understanding of what that actually is. So we're gonna break that down today.
Okay, first of all, the definition of accountability doesn't change when people are holding your feet to the fire for you to be accountable for your own actions. Like, everybody else isn't confused of the definition of accountability just because you are standing in a place where people are firmly holding you accountable and you don't like the backlash that you're getting from it. I just wanted to put that out there. Just in case we're all unaware of that. The next thing I want to say is, she says that, she's being accountable for her own actions and she's not, putting anybody else into it. It's all about her. And again, the attorney caught a stray, so that's not true. Attorney didn't have nothing to do with the whole, base of the conversation. Just keeping it real. But then it goes back to feelings and emotions and the space that should be created. Nobody has to offer a space for somebody to be accountable for their options. That's foolishness. That's foolishness. Oh, I can only be accountable for my options if I feel comfortable enough to do so. How about we dial it back? You're the one who did the wrong. If we play it back, if we watch back the tape, if you did something wrong to somebody, you have the nerve to say that you don't want to be accountable for your actions of your wrongdoings that you did to somebody because they should create a soft space for you to land on, for you to be accountable for your actions. We have to make it make sense. We have to make it make sense. Nobody has to offer anything. That's like you doing something wrong to somebody. And, you should say sorry, but because they got an attitude with you, you're not going to tell them sorry. Oh, I'm not going to tell them sorry. I was going to say sorry, but now I'm not because, she got an attitude. But why does she have the attitude to begin with? Isn't it because you said something to her that you shouldn't have said? Or you did something that you should not have done? We have to use our logic and not our emotions. It's not about how it makes you feel. It's not about how you feel about it. So again, she's talking about she want to go through the definition of accountability because a lot of people don't know what it is. Again, based on people holding her feet to the fire about, accountability. So I decided, okay, to bring up the definition of accountability, and we're going to go through it together. Okay. So this says accountability. The definition is the responsibility of an individual or organization to answer for its activities. It involves accepting the consequences, both positive and negative, of one's actions. Let's just stop right here for a second. It is accepting the consequences, both positive and negative, of one's actions. That means not just because you are accountable are we going to stand aside and clap for you. Sometimes the consequences are not going to be positive and they're not going to feel good. But it's character building. It's for yourself. It does something to you and to your mentality when you can own up to things. This principle ensures transparency and honesty in various processes and decisions. It is a cornerstone of trust in both personal and professional relationships. Because even in a space where I know that you wronged me, and even if I don't come to you about it and say anything about it, you come to me and say, hey, I was speaking to you in the wrong tone, and I just want to let you know that I completely apologize for that. It was out of line, it was uncalled for, and I want to be accountable for the things that I say to people. I was wrong for doing that. And the other person is saying, wow, that person owned up to their decisions. That means, especially in a personal relationship, I can say moving forward that you're going to check yourself or you're going to catch yourself. It does not mean that if you come up and you say, I cursed you out, I talked about your mama, I talked about your daddy, I talked about this, I did that, I did all of these things, I took your money, I did all this stuff, and I just want to let you know that I'm being accountable for my actions, that person is going to have the same energy. It don't mean that. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that moving forward, maybe you will be able to decipher and be proactive instead of reactive in situations. Oh, I remember that time I was accountable and I didn't like the feeling that I got back or the feedback that I got back based off of my actions. So instead, I'm going to check my actions at the gate. That's what the whole system of it is for. The examples, it says admitting mistakes. Instead of deflecting blame or making excuses, an accountable person owns up to their errors and seeks to make amends. This is very important to this story that we got going on right now. This is very important. And I also want to say in this moment too, this goes deeper than just this situation. Okay, with Tyrese and his ex-wife. This goes way deeper than that. Because, if, as his ex-wife said, if, she's trying to be the vessel of allowing people to be accountable, and she did that so that more people can hold on to accountability, then in this instance of us having this conversation, we can't take it personal. We can't get in our feelings. We can't get upset because we're trying to lead people to the water to be accountable for their actions so that they could drink it and have better relationships. And sometimes the base of the interview that you just did and even the live stream that you did, this is also leading us down that line for people to be accountable for their actions based off of the examples that we're seeing here. She wanted to go to the definition of accountability. We're literally doing that. Instead of deflecting blame or making excuses, an accountable person owns up to their errors and seeks to make amends. So that means I can't deflect blame on my friends, on my homegirls, on my attorney, on what that person did to me, and that's why I did something in return. I can't make excuses and say I can't. I gonna only talk about me, my errors, my ways, what I did, how I was wrong. And a vital point in this, it says seeks to make amends. That means if I'm being accountable for my actions, I got to talk to the person who I wronged, not just other people. Okay. Next example says seeking feedback. Proactively asking for feedback on performance and genuinely being open to making improvements based on that feedback. So being open to feedback and being open to making improvements based on the feedback means humility. Means that a strong part of being accountable for your actions is having humility. Being humble enough to hear when people are speaking. Being humble enough to, even if it doesn't feel good, you sit in that and you take note. Just got to be real. Just got to be honest with you guys. You don't always feel good. It's not going to be all somebody, well, thank you for being accountable for your actions. I know how hard that must have been for you to open up. And so, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. No. Sometimes that while you're being accountable for that your actions, that person's going to tell you more wrongdoings that you've done to lead up to how they feel. And you can't have the attitude, well, I came over here to be accountable, and now you bringing up old stuff. You see, that's why I don't talk to you. That's not how it works. You have to sit there and sit in it. Be humble enough to, again, be open to making improvements based on the feedback that you receive. I saw this when I was looking up for the definition of accountability. I saw this whole all these different steps that they use because they said accountability in the workforce. So I want to go through that, but I also saw this definition, and it says accountability is a trait of being responsible and open to having your decisions and actions scrutinized. An accountable person keeps their commitments and promises. If one thing goes wrong, an accountable person is open about their faults and failings. Let's pay attention to this highlighted part, though. Accountability is a trait of being responsible and open to having your decisions and actions scrutinized. So where she's saying, I was open and I was being accountable, and, this would make me never want to do it again because look how people are acting. This is a part of you still being accountable. This is still a part of that. Being open to having your decisions and actions scrutinized. You're under scrutiny. This is a part of the accountability. They go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. I want to move on to this clip, these steps that I saw that I really loved. It says, be proactive rather than reactive. It is easy to follow the same comfortable routine, but that won't help you become a more valuable team member. Again, this is in the workforce, but we're going to talk about personal relationships. Being proactive means you're constantly evaluating your effectiveness and strengths in the workplace. You're looking for ways to improve and grow before problems have a chance to occur. So that means an accountable person in a relationship, what does that look like? That means having, as a woman, going to your spouse and saying, is there anything that you feel that I can improve on? Is there any wrongdoings that I have that you feel like, I should be better at? Is there anything that I'm doing that you feel that I could change to be better within this relationship? Proactive. Again, that goes back. Let's dial it back. Let's go all the way back to the beginning when you're saying, it doesn't feel good. Again, it may not feel good in that moment, but it's going to make you be more proactive in other situations in the future. The next part, it says, come up with solutions. It says you'll inevitably encounter a big challenge at some point in your job or relationship, because we're talking about relationships. Rather than admit defeat, why not take steps to solve it? Take the initiative to brainstorm possible solutions and bring them to your supervisor or your man alongside the problem. It's okay to be frustrated with difficult circumstances, but don't let the circumstance win. Think creatively and use all the resources at your disposal. So that means because I'm accountable of myself, I got to be proactive instead of reactive. I got to ask questions, about my performance. I also got to come up with solutions. Okay, based off of the feedback that I heard, or based off of the difficulty that we're experiencing in this time, I think it might be best if we do this so that we can have a positive outcome. That means I'm a team player. That means in the midst of it and in the thick of it, I'm thinking of how we're still working on the same team so we can come up with solutions. I'm not over here talking about, well, you mad at the way I talk to you. Well, you need to figure it out then. I don't know what to tell you. That's on you. I love how deep we're going into this, guys. For real, I really love how deep we're going into this. This is like some real. These are the things that can really help relationships flourish. This at the base, because communication is one of the biggest reasons why people in relationships don't work out. Because a big part of effective communication is being able to be accountable. The next part says, show up. Arrive at the office ready to work. Team members who jump ship when things are tough or don't contribute much aren't as valuable. Let me run that back. Team members who jump ship when things are tough or don't contribute much aren't as valuable. Show up to team meetings on time, maybe even ahead of schedule. Be ready to flex your skills and offer a hand when a coworker needs help. That means, we're going to put this in relationship terms. That means when the going gets tough, I'm not just going to dip out on you in the middle of the night, throwing something over the ring camera. Okay? I'm just going to be honest. That means I'm going to step up to the plate. I'm going to be here. Whatever we got going on, whatever the situation is, because of me being I'm going to show up and be ready to work. That means in my mind, again, I done ask the questions to get feedback. I stand in the gap. Ready to put it into play. What was number 2? I done came up with solutions. I'm showing up now, so I asked, came up with solutions. I'm showing up ready to put the work in. The next one is very crucial. Accept criticism. Constructive criticism is an incredible tool. To be an accountable employee, you must be open to giving and receiving feedback, even if it's not always positive, even if it doesn't always feel good, even if you don't feel better after the person that's talking to you because you feel bad about the things that they have pointed out within you that you wanted to hide away or hide from. Even if the people are pointing out some of your flaws that you're embarrassed or ashamed of. even if it's not always positive. Know that it's necessary for improvement. Don't avoid team check-ins or evaluations because they allow you to learn and grow. Try not to take things personally, emotionally, and know that your team members only aim to help. We talk about this all the time here on my channel. You know, relationships, the beautiful thing about relationships is that it is a pivot or the opportunity for you to grow to be the best version of yourself, because that man is a mirror to you. And women, you are a mirror to that man. You guys get to see the inner depths of each other. That person has the ability to evoke every emotion out of you, or at least be on the sideline and see every emotion come out of you in various situations. If you avoid the check-in, if you avoid showing up, if you avoid bringing solutions, if you avoid being proactive, how are you going to grow as a person? A lot of people think accountability is for everybody else, but it's for you. That's why it don't matter what come of it. It don't matter if it didn't make you feel good in the moment. Everything that's meant to make you grow is not going to feel good. That's why there's a thing called growing pains. Might not feel good, but it's the best for you. Okay. Number 5 says, speak up. There's a time to listen and a time to speak up. Maybe you're in a team meeting with your manager, and a manager assumes an idea they didn't like was someone else's when it was yours. Rather than letting others take the blame for you, speak up and take responsibility. Actions like this help to build trust within your team. This says, a manager assumes that an idea that they didn't like was someone else's when it was actually your idea. Instead of letting somebody else take the blame, you say, oh, that was my idea. How do we transmute this into a relationship? Let's see, for example. Oh, my bad. That was me. I left the iron plugged in. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't the kids. You're not going to play mental gymnastics and try to make it seem like it was them and they're crazy and they forgot. You're going to own it. That was me. Yeah, that was me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. Oh, wait. Did we mean to? Oh, man, I forgot. I completely forgot to call. I forgot. I'm sorry. That was me. I should have called them. Next one says communicate effectively. I'm going to speed through the rest of these because we got to get to the Tyrese portion. Communicate effectively. Set clear expectations. Number 8, I think it was cut off here. It says handle disagreements maturely. Be mindful of rules and regulations. Be mindful of the values in your relationship. Be mindful of the respect you're supposed to have for your partner within your relationship. Have willingness to learn, aka humility, aka be able to accept criticism when it don't feel good. Pay attention to the details, the patterns. Okay, I know he doesn't like this. He said he doesn't like this. I done had to, step up to the plate. I done said sorry 5 times. Maybe I need to rewind a tape and figure out why I keep having to say sorry. Maybe I need to check myself. Let me start with me. Let me go all the way to step 1 and let me be proactive. Again, okay, we wanted to go to the definition of accountability because you felt like, a lot of people don't understand what accountability is. Not only did we go to the definition, but we done broke it down. All the way down. We done got to, steps of accountability. Let me make sure we on target. Okay, y'all. Oh, and the last one, which was very important, it said be sincere. But on that note, we're going to go right to Tyrese.
I'm about to get put out of my place. I can't afford to live there anymore. So then 3 days later, after wrestling with, man, what was that call about? She texts me and she says, can you watch Soraya for the next 2 weeks? Because I'm about to get put out of my place. I can't afford to live there anymore. I got to downsize and move into something else. And my fucking heart dropped because I said, wow, you called me after almost a year to finally have this conversation about reconciliation, which was disingenuous. It wasn't real. It was not a God moment. It wasn't you realizing that leaving your husband and your family, as harsh and as heartless and as and as traumatic and as vile and calculated as that was, you did not feel a way about leaving your husband and your family. You were entertaining reconciliation because you couldn't afford to stay in your townhouse anymore. She had 2 friends to call me, and she's like, oh man, Sam's about to call you. She wants to reconcile. She said that God has really showed her that she wants to for a marriage and family. So I get on the phone with these 2 friends. One happens to be Aventer. And I get on the phone and I'm talking and I'm listening. And I'm like, okay. So then tell Sam to call me. So she called and we talked. We were on the phone for about 3 hours. And the first thing I had to say to her was, you'll notice how fast I called you back, which means I don't need 10, 12 chasing me, trying to talk me into anything. And I don't want to play this game. I've been chasing you for almost a year. Now that you're ready to finally get back into marriage, I want you to chase me. I want to play a game. I'm not playing no game. I'm going to get on the phone and we're going to talk about it. So after we talked for like 3 hours, I told her the first thing, you may call Zelly or think of Zelly as some influencer, fat booty, vixen. You may put her in the category of whatever you as a woman put her in the category of, but this is my girl. I'm in a full-on relationship. You left me. I have not talked to you. I have not been able to get you to call me back. You have literally left me, this marriage and this family for dead, and everything that you've accused me of in this paperwork and everything that has been revealed to me about your intentions, I can't unsee that. I can't unfeel that. I can't undo that. I'm going to tell you something else that I've never said publicly. That interview that she just did that went viral, where she was talking about, people got in my ear and I really regret ever leaving my husband and my family. I found out that her lawyer asked her to do that interview because she's appealing. No, I am appealing the entire divorce trial. The outcome of the entire divorce is all being appealed right now. So her lawyers asked her to do that interview so that she can manipulate and once again play on people's emotions and appear to be remorseful or regretful about the idea that she made the decision to leave me, because everything about the picture that has been painted is the truth.
When I made like the decision, I was like hysterically crying on the phone with my attorney.
You're heartless. You're vindictive. You're malicious. You're trying to get $20,000 a month for a now 5-year-old, and at the time the baby was only 1.
About what do you think her intentions is now by doing this? But before that final question, can you hear me?
Famous. She's clout chasing. She's out here manipulating actual abused women that are single mothers, that are divorcee, she is out here using her sex appeal, using her gift of the gab playing on people, gaslighting.
Well, she's a beautiful woman. She is a beautiful woman. Coming into, after all that time of not speaking to his spouse or whatever, and, the fact that he mentioned that she called him just because, basically the child needed somewhere to stay or whatever the situation is. And, the conversation ended up, just so happened it went back into them being together and rekindling their relationship and fixing everything, I can understand his point of view speaking out about that. Like, that's manipulation. A lot of women use different forms of manipulation, and they try to feed off of the man's emotions or his feelings and try to get him where it hurts, to slither their way into, that man's heart, to be able to influence him to make a certain decision that he wouldn't normally make, because they are just, abruptly popping up with something that they want him to respond to in a certain way. Oh, well, if I know that he doesn't care about me, or if, I've kind of broken the connection, let me use his child to try to not only get the communication that I want with this man directly, but also so that I can influence him in a way that is going to be to my best benefit. If I keep bringing up the child, maybe he'll think about, rekindling or getting us back together, so I can reap some of the benefits that I had from before. I don't blame him for bringing that up, because that is something that a lot of women do. A lot of women use manipulation tactics. And it's ironic, a lot of them use it after they go out there, test the waters out, see if the grass was greener, involve themselves in other situations. Sometimes after they done had kids, hit the wall, all types of stuff. Then they use these tactics to reel the person back in. It's not uncommon. And accountability looks like, even if that's not the case, even if that was not her intentions at that time, accountability looks like, well, that may have not been my intention at the time, but I can completely see and understand why you had that mindset and why you thought I was doing it in that way. I get that. Seeing it from your point of view, I understand. And then, when you talk about the new girlfriend and, whoever don't like it, it don't matter who like it. I don't have to like it. Nobody else don't like it. But, it's very rare that a man can move on after a relationship didn't work out, and that woman is not going to be, bitter or vindictive, and is not going to have ill feelings towards the next woman. It's very rare that happens. Very rare. Worse if the woman looks like a complete contrast to the original woman. I love the fact that he stand on it like, okay, you trying to rekindle something, you trying to bring up family, you trying to bring up my daughter, but there's a whole nother person that's involved in this scenario, and you may not care about her, but I do, because that's my woman. That shows that he's like, I'm definitely not playing no games, and I respect that. And more than respect it, I completely understand his point of view and where he's coming from. Let me say this. It's so interesting, because if we go back to the beginning of this video, and she was talking about, like, she's never gonna badmouth her spouse, and she's never gonna badmouth her child's father. They've been through enough, and she doesn't think it's the right thing to do. In my opinion, based off of him having his last live stream after the interview, and then having this live stream again after she posted what she posted, I almost feel like that's her trying to get him to not reveal so much. That's her trying to get him to think the same way that she thinks, like by saying like, oh, we've been through enough, and that's my child's father, so maybe, in her mind, it's like, maybe he'll think like, well, this is my child's mother, maybe I won't say so much, and this and that. But Tyrese is like, I am not the one or the two. Okay? I am going to spill all tea, whatever it is that you don't want to tell, I'm going to tell it. Because I done been through enough. This man was online crying, went through it. People was calling him crazy. He done lost friends. Like, he's went there. So he's saying, I don't have that emotional capacity anymore to sit here and withhold things while you make it seem as though, you didn't have a part to play, or whatever the situation is. I'm going to spill it all. This is something that a lot of men do not get the opportunity to do, or that they won't do. There's a lot of men who sit there, you know, and while their ex-wives or, you know, ex-girlfriends or baby mamas or whoever are going on smear campaigns about the man, and people are believing the woman only because the man is sitting there and not saying anything. Only because he is choosing to just be like, you know what, whatever, shit, I've been through, let me just leave it. You know, most men are not going to sit there and be in this quote unquote, you know, crybaby narrative that they know that they can be subjected to, because you a man, who cares, you know, whatever, her feelings matter most, you know, happy wife, happy life, the woman come first. The last part of that, you know, that whole instruction manual of accountability, or the steps to accountability, was be sincere. And I thought it was very ironic that, you know, immediately when Tyrese jumps into the conversation, he talks about, you know, how disingenuous he felt that her calling and wanting to reconcile was. Even on the live stream, you know, when she's laughing and saying, reconcile, please. No, that's over. I wouldn't want it no other way, this and that. And he's saying, you know, that she begged to have her family back. And the only reason why that did not take place is because he did not want that to take place, because he moved on. So then to go back and to laugh like that relationship is so beneath you is mind-boggling to me. It's unfair. And, you know, the thing is that I learned after I did my first video, I had a lot of people in my Instagram DM and in my comment section, and they were saying, you know, she holds women accountable, like that's what she does on social media or whatever the case is. I had no idea. Okay, I'm being real with you. I had no idea. I did not know that this was the same person who I would see clips of people sending them into my DM. I did not know that same person was the person that was involved in all the Tyrese drama. Okay, I wasn't aware. Y'all made me aware. Y'all know that. The point is not saying that either some people who are still in the midst of getting it together can't tell other people, you know, what to do, or you know, sometimes people are do as I say, not as I do types of people, and we know that to be true, right? Just like me, I cannot agree with somebody's standpoint, and they can say one thing, and I'm like, well, I agree with that. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with you 100%. But the problem in this situation is that the lines are blurred, because although she is talking about herself in hindsight, right? She's talking about herself in retrospect. The problem is what Tyrese keeps bringing up is the problem that they're still having now in court. That's the main problem in this story. Because if you dial it back and you feel like there's some things that you did wrong, and, you know, you were wrong about certain actions and this and that, but you are not, you know, you go to court and you say, hey, I was wrong. I did this. I made some mistakes. And you are changing your tune also in your personal life behind doors in court. That's a whole different ball game. We'll be like, well, Ty, what you talking about? Because I understand what you went through, but she done dropped the whole case. She says she not doing this. She not doing that. We understand how you feel. We understand, you know, your emotions about the situation. But at the same time, she really putting her money where her mouth is. That would be a whole different conversation. But when you're in the midst of it and you're still in the thick of it and there's still some stuff that's going on, that's when it's making people confused, because a lot of women do not know how to decipher hearing knowledge and listening to a person who's in a certain situation that says, do as I say, not as I do, and or deciphering from a person who is like, but we're looking at you, and so we should still kind of be, you know, quote unquote trifling in a way, but at the same time, we're supposed to know how to talk to people, but at the same time, you want us to be accountable for our actions, but at the same time, you know, we should get him for all he got, but at the same, like, it's a very back and forth thing. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I really hope that whatever it is that's going on behind doors, especially for the sake of their child, that they are able to amicably work something out between the two of them. Because, as you know, Jay-Z says, nobody wins when the family feuds. You know, and so for that child to be so young, to be going through, you know, certain tumultuous relationships, not be able to see her dad as much as she wants to. You know, Tyrese was saying that he didn't get to see her for her birthday or whatever the case is. You know, that's very hard and difficult. And we have to also remember that, you know, in keeping your child, you know, just going off of what he said, I can only go off of what he said, but keeping your child away from their father is not hurting the man as much as it's hurting the child. We have to keep that in mind. But, you know, I do hope that they come to some common ground. But I'm going to tell you something. He is, to me, how I look at this whole synopsis, even more than the two of them just being, you know, two normal people going through something publicly, I feel like he is taking a stand, and he is speaking up for a lot of men who have been in these situations. And they can resonate with that. Because they didn't say anything. Because they didn't speak up. Because their side of the story never got told. While the woman looks like, she was in distress. She was this, victim. And then all of a sudden, she comes out on the other side and she has this awakening and she has all this wealth of knowledge and she is able to tell other people all these things that she learned because she was just this victim. And then she is triumphed and the man is just, trash, garbage, horrible. He was bad in the marriage. He bad now. He this, he that. He's beneath me. I've elevated, above him. I've graduated. Like, He's bringing the balance that's necessary to have the full aspect of these conversations. And I got to say, this is not personal, okay? I don't know Tyrese. I don't know his ex-wife. This is not personal. I'm only using this situation to have a broader conversation for everyday people who are, as the ex-wife said in the beginning, who are going through similar situations, who can learn from this situation, who can learn to have effective communication, who can learn to be accountable for their actions, to either save the relationship that they in, mend what's on the brink of being broken, or to move forward in a positive light. To end up being able to receive positive results through the change. This is my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this video, this full video. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.